tendency to sort of, when something happens to us or some giant tragedy or we experience something dramatic, we want it to be over and we want to claim victory, or we want to somehow have revenge so that we can feel better. And I think it's interesting in this Moses story, I had never really noticed this before, but if you look at the third paragraph, the end of the third paragraph and the start of the fourth there, the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the Israelites, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." So when you hear that, you think the Egyptians are doing what? Like, they're giving up, right? Let's flee. God is clearly with these guys. Let's get out of here. So they're turning around, and then the Lord says to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so the water may come over the Egyptians." And Moses does it. There's so much opportunity in that moment. Number one, God tells Moses to do it. I don't know that Moses has to respond. There's plenty of times that people perceive that God has told them to do things, right? And yet, it's almost like it has to be human hand to create that trauma. I mean, that tragedy for the Egyptians. I'm sure when the Egyptian army went back with a third of their people, there was much grieving in Egypt for the people that they had lost in that time. And yet, there are the Israelites, right, with the tambourines, dancing. So it seems like it's just such a, the pictures they just don't line up in terms of our world. Is it not possible for us all to be dancing with the tambourines? So it seems to me another response when I was musing about this. So we have the response of we need a victory. We have the response of we want revenge. And then, of course, the natural response when you feel threatened is fear, right? And we've had many, many instances in our country of people reacting with fear against particularly Muslim people in this country or beyond. The mosque at Ground Zero has caused all kinds of conversation around that. When I remember a time when we were flying, and it was very soon after September 11th, probably within the first year, and there was a gentleman who was, had the headpiece and was getting on the plane, and there was a man in line behind me who said, "I'm not getting on that plane." Literally not getting on the plane. And that is certainly a reaction grounded in fear. Of course, isn't it? I mean, you think he knew nothing about that person, nor did I. Now, nobody knows anything about people that you're getting on the plane with, but to not go on your travels and to change your life and to decide about a person from afar, what they're like, is an attitude of fear and an attitude of lack of connection, lack of openness. The Israelites, after they did their little dancing and then they walked for a few days and then they had some trouble finding water. And so they very quickly went into that space, which they always do with Moses. What, have you just sent us out here to die? Thanks a lot. We should have just stayed back in Egypt. That's where they always go, that doubt and that fear, that sense that maybe God is actually not with them, even though they've had countless images and experiences to prove otherwise. And I guess I want to say that it's perfectly natural, to have those reactions, to take those positions, and to stand in those moments, needing those things. When we feel fear, or we feel attacked, or we feel angry, we certainly follow a long line of humans, Moses included, who succumbed to those urges and responded not out of faith and confidence in God, but instead out of fear and anxiety within ourselves. I mean, I'm sure Moses looked back and saw the Egyptians, and God said, "Go ahead, put your hand up." And I wonder if there was a moment where he thought, they really can't get to us. How long are they really going to follow us? They're going the other way. But instead, whatever. Psh, and then all the waters come. Seems to me that these are the songs that people sing in these moments and have been singing since the beginning of time. Cain and Abel. Bloodshed and violence, it's all kind of a part of the history, part of the human story. But the problem with those old songs, the revenge and the victory songs, and the songs grounded in fear, is that they don't really make us feel any better. Drone attacks and suicide bombings on the other side of the world stir up a little bit of unease in all of us, even though in theory some of that is grounded in some sense of, well, I don't know. God is the God of Isaac and Ishmael, the God of Christians and Jews and Muslims, the God of us all. So what song can we sing? We've been singing the same songs for so long. How long will we continue? Returning violence with violence, hurt for hurt. A slight to me turns into a slight for another. An eye for an eye, evil for evil. How long will we continue lifting our staff and gleefully sending the waters over our enemies so that we can see them on the shore, dead? Did you notice where God was in that story with the Egyptians? In the beginning of the passage, between the armies, preventing them from warring all night long. The angel of God, who was going before the Israelite army, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and took its place behind them, and it came between the army of Egypt and the army of Israel, and so the cloud was there with the darkness, and it lit up the night. One did not come near the other all night. And then when the day came, God gave the Israelites the escape route, and then it was Moses who lifted his staff against his enemies. God is a God of mercy, but we need to be a people of mercy too. Jesus, the Christ, tells us to sing a whole new song. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Love your neighbor enough to greet them, to find out about them, to get to know them, instead of fear them. Love yourself enough to rise above the victory song, the retribution, the vengeance. Love your God enough to trust that she is in the business of leading us forward. It's human nature to look back and to look at our enemies and try and sing those victory and vengeance songs, but that's not God's nature. And if we're a faithful people, a Christ-following people, a people of love, we must be singers of the new songs. We live in a world that naturally defaults to the old songs, but we have to lift our voices so that we can sing the songs of peace and the songs of reconciliation and the songs of justice and the songs of love, because if we don't do it, how long will we keep singing the same songs? Our faith must guide us to transform the old songs when we hear them and create hope for the people who cannot yet sing a new song. That is what it means to be singers of the new songs. Because just as on the one side there's the victory dances and the revenge and the fear, on the other side there is faith and hope and love. And as you all know, the greatest of these is love. So let us be singers of these new songs of love. Amen.